and welcome to episode 19 of Things We Play. It's Tuesday the 5th of May. It's now 10 to 4 in the morning. We've just finished watching the Sony conference, and we thought we'd have a bit of a chat about it. My name's Mike Oldman. I'm here as usual. As usual? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was thinking as normal in my mind. It's very early in the morning. I'm here as normal, as if by usual. With Sean Hart. Sean.
Yeah, you just waffling.
Similar boat there. And to my right, Mr. Joseph Tonetta.
Hello.
Hello, Joe. So yeah, we just watched Sony's, and it's time to wax lyrical about it. How do we feel about the conference as a whole, guys?
It was alright. It was more games related than Microsoft's. They focused more on games.
Yeah, I mean, as we thought, they kind of went down that whole. We care about the gamers route, you know. Microsoft, we always knew we were going for this entertainment section of the thing. It made sense for Sony to really sort of charge home after the gamers, and it seemed like they were going to do that at first. Jack Tratton came out and he gave a little speech about how the gamers were so important, and then I don't feel like they overall sort of really went for it that as much. So in fact, both conferences so far, they haven't really seemed to have gone for it all that much. Sony though did show quite a few exclusive games that they've got. But had a weird conference. I don't know. It was better than Microsoft's.
Yeah.
It
was definitely stronger.
Yeah, it was deceiving as well because they started the thing with that massive montage of loads and loads of games and then didn't show as many as they looked.
No, but they can't show. I'm going to argue with this. They can't. They just need to show it to go. Look, we've got loads of games.
I know.
We can't be there. It would be 7:30 in the morning before it finished now, as opposed to 3:30. But yeah, okay. So I'm sorry you didn't see more of those games, Joe.
Well, no, we'd already seen some of them, so it wasn't much of a
disappointment.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But they started off then with Quantic Dream coming out, didn't they? They brought David Cage out on stage to talk about their latest game. Those guys are seriously in bed with Sony on this stuff. I've always thought it's strange that Sony never bought Quantic Dream because they must have a very attractive deal to stay exclusive to Sony.
Yeah. And
they've sort of continued this with this latest game.
Yeah.
So weird then, really, because Heavy Rain was a strange game anyway. Everything at Quantic Dream's been a bit strange. Almost elaborate QuickTime events, interactive movie type experiences.
Yeah.
That are normally very emotional. They pride themselves on being exceptionally emotional, and every year, or when they're talking about new tech, they bring out these new tech demos and stuff. This year's was Kara, which you liked a lot, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah, it was very well made.
Which they showed at GDC, which was basically it was an artificial human being created, wasn't it? A robot thing that suddenly becomes alive or begins to feel. And before that, they'd done a previous demo about a woman whose husband, I think, was cheating on her, and she had a gun, and she was threatening to kill herself and stuff. And both these things were they really got to you. They were moving pieces of cinema, anyway. And Heavy Rain was kind of full of moments like that. What I found odd about Beyond was when David Cage came out and he was talking about how it was going to span 15 years of this person's life, I think, and take you on this journey. It sounded like a similar thing, it's high concept, emotional rampage, I suppose. And he goes, it's got Ellen Page in it, finally, you've got this great actress and it's all going to be cool. And then what they showed seemed really devoid of all emotion. It was like there wasn't nothing really compelled me through it.
It was almost a monologue, wasn't it? Just kind of like the cop talking at her, and just kind of sitting there staring at coffee.
She did nothing, The face, cool. It looked like Ellen Page, but the face barely moved, and very little happened in that scene. And then it went on to show a bit more of the game, and went totally more in a Fahrenheit direction, where she's got some sort of special powers and it rains.
It looked more like Fear to me, where she's just like blowing everything up and everyone's on fire.
Yeah.
Well, no, the whole thing is that she contacts everything beyond, so like the dead and things like this. I'm assuming it means, because there's that bit where like one of the few things she said is she talks to that, looks up at the sky, says something to that thing with a massive explosion behind her, and it's like, I think they've got the point, and she just walks off.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
It's weird.
I think that she's just talking to the one other thing that's with her at all times.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some supernatural vibe to it anyway, which was completely none of that in Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was very sort of almost
straight-laced.
Yeah, exactly, and
straight-laced
and
serial
nasty,
killer.
So that's an interesting sort of direction for them. But it was an interesting demo. I just didn't really
mocap and face tech is looking good on.
Yeah, it's what they do sort of very well. Anyway, but there's nothing. I didn't see anything that really shouted out as anything particularly new. It'd be cool, it'd be interesting to see. But Quantic Dream games are like a good movie. They're like, that's it. They leave you feeling the same. They last just as long. You're not going to go back and play them again or anything. That's just an experience that you have, and that's it. You move along. So they're nice, but they're rare, and they take ages to make. Yeah. And what do you get out of them ultimately? I don't know. It's not changing the face of gaming forever.
In the pub.
Yeah, exactly.
Beyond seems like it's come really quickly since Heavy Rain's come out.
Yeah,
because between Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain was a massive gap. It's like I was surprised Quantic Dream survived between Heavy Rain, Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain. Yeah, it just seems like it's such a short gap that
I guess, but it's not. I mean, it's short in comparison to Fahrenheit to Heavy Rain, but then. I mean, short gap. We're still talking 2-3 years now, and it's the same tech.
Yeah.
Whereas Fahrenheit's previous, PS2 to PS3, this is PS3 to PS3. It's probably running on. Looks like it's running on a very similar engine.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine more of it is that lengthy period of the mocapping and the acting side of things. I mean, similar to sort of LA Noire sort of style of things. Yeah, interesting one to watch. I think if we see more of it, it'll become more apparent as to how interesting or compelling the story is. But that didn't wow me as a demo.
Yeah, it didn't jump out.
It looked like they'd picked a poor section of the game as a demo, basically.
Yeah, which is more than possible, isn't it? All right, so then after that, they went on. They showed us the leaked or the rumored but true for so long game, which was PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Which you love the title.
Man, it's just, why can't I just call it like PlayStation Rumble or something? It's kind of like Smash Brothers, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's all PlayStation Stars, they say, but some of these games are from other things.
It's third party stuff.
Which I thought was the most interesting part. I mean, that's what gets the cool characters in. The characters they showed then were Fat Princess, Kratos, Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal, Sly Cooper, yeah, and then they unveiled at the end Nathan Drake and the Big Daddy.
From Bioshock.
Which is quite cool. If they can get the third-party characters, that could be awesome, because you could have Lara Croft in there and Batman or anything like that, which takes it a little bit further away from the PlayStation All-Stars that you can think of. Because what are PlayStation All-Stars? Killzone characters, Nathan Drake. Parappa the Rapper's in there.
Yeah, Parappa the Rapper. I mean, does anybody actually want this game? They're not enjoyable, these sorts of games. I don't like them.
They're alright. Power Stone's freaking awesome.
Is it?
And this, Power Stone's awesome.
I didn't like Power Stone.
This is like, it seems more like a Power Stone sort of almost Kung Fu Chaos sort of thing to Smash Brothers. I mean, there aren't ring outs.
They've taken the ring out element, which is super fucking annoying on Smash Brothers, when you have no idea what's going on, and then suddenly you're off the edge of the ring, and that's half your life bar gone. I mean, graphically, it doesn't look appealing. It's kind of really hard to tell what's going on screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of those games, isn't it?
And then they have like an irritating outline glowing around the characters, so you could pinpoint them on the screen. But if you're doing that, then surely there's already a problem with the formula.
I think maybe you've had bad experiences that are worse than others. But yeah, I do agree. It can be hard to find your place on screen in those sorts of games. I think that's why it's maybe easier and certainly better that there aren't the ring out system that you've got in it. One thing I really liked about it was I liked the backdrops.
Yeah.
The levels that you choose, because they kind of merge into other games' levels as you play. So this one they played on was a Ratchet and Clank level. And it actually wasn't a great one, but it was Ratchet and Clank, and then it moved into like a God of War level by the end of it.
What they were saying before is that each level is going to be made up of 2 different games.
Yeah.
So it'll be a mix. One will have the look of one, and then have the added bits of another. So like the one we saw was Ratchet and Clank and God of War. With the God of War part, it had the old Hydra that came out and sort of attacked the stage and things like that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was, I think it looked alright. It's a weird title. It's not, because you can get so many other characters in and they're not limited to just one platform. It's not like Smash Brothers, which is much more limited in terms of characters it can have. Anything could turn up in this.
Yeah, it seems that.
And that's kind of cool. It's almost cheeky to call it PlayStation All Stars when it should just be Video Game Battleathon.
Yeah.
There's your name, Video Game Battleathon.
It'll be good to watch and see what characters they put in there and how it comes out.
Yeah. So then the other thing with that, actually, which was quite interesting, was they mentioned that it's cross-play with Vita. Yeah. So you can play on Vita and play on PS3 and play against each other, and it has cross-saves as well, which could work across the two, which was pretty cool. It's something that they always said they were going to do with Vita, and now they're delivering on it. And looks like they are pushing that quite hard within the studios that they can control actively. So all of these sort of games that we're going to be talking about over this show, and the main franchises of Sony, your God of Wars and things like that, all seemingly have, if there's a new title coming out, they've spoken to them to get Vita built into that as well. So they're coming true on that. One of the things they added to that was that Little Big Planet 2 is having crossplay added to it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so it did look good as well, because they showed little pictures and things like that, and where they're planning to do it sort of co-op, aren't they? That's what he sort of made it sound like it was coming across as.
Yeah, and they're changing the functionality of Little Big Planet 2 on the PS3, so you'll have the added features of the Vita, which being the touchscreens and stuff, will add to change the gameplay on the machine. So that sounds like, you know, it's not bad at all.
I mean, at this point, we should interject and point out that the PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale was being demoed with 2 people playing on PlayStation joypads and 2 people playing on Vita.
With the Little Big Planet 2 as well, they were announcing that when they do the crossover thing, they were going to add new levels, missions, stickers, outfits. They want to add a lot more content to it as well.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going back and really doing that'll be quite good for it. What they want to do is they want people to buy games on both systems, on both things. So this, obviously, they're going to shift Little Big Planet 2 on Vita, but they're trying to also boost things on PS3. They want it to go both ways. They want you to be in a situation where you've got a Vita and both copies of games on both machines, don't they? So then they went on to talk about PlayStation Plus. Now, they've been speaking about for a couple of days now, going, if you're not on PlayStation Plus, you might want to do it now and get on there, as though there's going to be some big announcements for it. There wasn't anything massive, I would say, announcement, but the free games that they give away on PlayStation Plus quite regularly, normally little PSN games, they've said that they're giving away a load of full PS3 games.
Yeah, proper AAA licenses.
Yeah, so 3 coming this month, I think, probably available very, very soon. With Little Big Planet 2, Infamous 2, and Saints Row 2. Completely for free, which is kind of cool. I think they said they had 12 titles that they were going to be rolling this out with. That's not bad. That's a pretty sweet deal for your $5 a month.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Infamous series, and Infamous 2's pretty good. It's a pretty good upgrade on number 1. It kind of takes out a lot of the tedium. And Saints 2, as I've stated before on the show, is pretty much my favourite.
I thought Saints 2 is a weird one for them to do.
Yeah.
It's a much older game than the other two. It's a very strange one to be in this
But
package.
at the same time, it is still the best Saints Row game.
Sure. But it's just like,
it's win-win.
Saints 3 has just come out. Why is that not Saints Row the Third?
Yeah.
Which is peculiar. Maybe that's because that's tied up with Microsoft in something. I don't know if the DLC coming for that is a Microsoft exclusive.
Maybe.
And so they couldn't get it, and so they're having Saints Row the 2 based on the success of the third. We might as well have the second one. But it just seemed like the odd one of the crowd. But that's a cool deal. There's full games for nothing. That's got to entice some people to PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, and especially if they change them every month as well, so add new titles in there. It'll be worth paying the £5 a month to get the different titles.
Yeah. So then Ubisoft came out on the stage and did a big old performance demo of Assassin's Creed 3.
And it wasn't what anyone was expecting.
No, it was weird, man. It was all pirate ships.
It was like Pirates of the Caribbean.
It was cool. Assassin's Creed 3 I really like the look of. I've dropped out of Assassin's Creed. I loved it at first and then dropped out of it. But Assassin's Creed 3 I really like the look of it, with all this sort of colonial stuff and things, and the boats were wicked. It was a weird demo because it's not really a fair demo, because Assassin's Creed 3 is not going to have a lot of that in it, is it? It's, but it was something that was genuinely different to see, and man, big ships are cool.
Yeah, it looked very impressive, the size of the ship you were commanding.
I mean, up until now, I've not had any sort of real interest in Assassin's Creed 3. This is the first thing I've seen of it that's made me sit up and actually pay attention at all.
But that's weird, because you loved Assassin's Creed, didn't you?
Yeah,
you played all of them.
I mean, I'm about halfway through Revelations, because it's just got to the point where they're not making a big enough impact and big enough difference between games. Is that they've two Brotherhood and Revelations have just kind of blended into one.
It is the longest. It's
game.
the longest trilogy in history for the most amount of titles for 3. And not only that, but they announced another one at the conference as well, which was Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation.
Yeah.
For Vita.
Yeah.
Which again looked quite cool. It was more Assassin's Creed 3, but it had a woman as character, which I thought was interesting. But aside from that, just kind of more.
I guess
Assassin's
the story
Creed.
pretty much runs parallel with what's going on in number 3.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure if there was any sort of interlocking stuff between the two titles.
Yeah, they did mention that it's like if you have both copies and a VR and a PlayStation, they were going to unlock the guy's tomahawk from Assassin's Creed 3 for the character in VR.
Right.
And
okay.
there's like character skins and
Yeah.
characters.
So that's just it's a simple unlock stuff rather than any sort of interaction between the two. Okay. Again, coming from Ubisoft, then we had Far Cry 3. You know, it was interesting because Ubisoft, that's quite a lot. You know, Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 3. It's quite a lot to be showing in one conference. So they seem to be quite pally with Sony at the moment. And Sony were toting sort of new exclusive deals with each of them for DLC. So both for Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 3, they were saying they'd have their unique piece of DLC.
Which comes in the box with the console and the game.
Yeah, so they're doing a pack-in console for Assassin's Creed.
I didn't have one for Far Cry.
No, I don't think they mentioned one. No.
Oh no, that's not true. Actually, I think it was a Far Cry 3 pack-in for PS3, and I think it was the white PS Vita.
That's correct.
For Assassin's Creed. So they had a bundle deal with each of them, and then an exclusive piece of DLC, and that was kind of it. But Far Cry 3 then they showed on stage next, and they showed off a. This was kind of weird. I didn't really like this. The Ubisoft guy comes out and he's like, "Yo, Far Cry 3, we've been working on it for ages. It's awesome. We're awesome. Everybody's awesome. We love gamers. We've been working on this game, but we have a secret." And you're like, "Oh, what the? You know what? They're about to come out." And then they're like, "We didn't just make one game. We made 2 games." And it's like, well, that's a really stupid secret to keep. You know, you want to tell people about this second game you made because you might sell a few copies. And they go, "Yeah, 4-player co-op in Far Cry 3." And then they did a demo, and that's cool. All right, 4-player. I'm thinking 4-player co-op, brilliant, nice announcement. They show us a demo of 4-player co-op, and all this time I'm thinking, so where's the second game? You're going to show me this after you've made this announcement about 4-player co-op? Because you said you made a second game. And then he finished it and it's like, yeah, we made a whole new campaign for 4-player campaign for Far Cry 3. It's brilliant and we hope you enjoy it and good night. And you're like, what? That's your second game? That's just a different mode in your game. And it's just a co-op mode, which is not... We get those in games. They're in Splinter Cell and Call of Duty and Halo. And
like the first barbecue.
So I thought that was really sneaky of him to just sort of come out and go and made a second game. It's like, you didn't. You made more of the same game. They look quite cool.
Yeah, it had some interesting features because there was that bit where they're blowing up the bridge and like one of them had to carry the explosives onto the bridge.
Yeah. I thought it had a real sort of Left 4 Dead vibe to it, just sort of without any zombies or any of that stuff. But the fact that it was sort of objective based, they were trying to do something and work together. Aside from that, it was just straight up shooting, very generic shooting enemies, wasn't it?
It looked like they had different classes of enemies to fight with as well.
The 4 people demoing it were like massively over the top, weren't they? In their multiplayer experience, and like, he's over there, get down! I've got the bridge, go, 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 go! And it was a bit sort of like, yeah. No, that's maybe too much.
Most people playing 4-player co-op are in complete silence.
Yeah, I just set him on fire. Okay, thanks. But yeah, it looked alright. I think that's pretty cool. I'm quite interested for that.
It did look interesting because they all had different weapons. So I'm wondering if there's sort of like a
any sort of class-based sort of thing, and they looked like very much structured levels, didn't they? It didn't look like it was that open world experience of the main game. It looked like it was a focused. Experience, which is it's fairly interesting. They did speak a little bit about saying that the map editor was back. I didn't know if that was confirmed before. I didn't know about that, but I presumed it would be. But it's definitely in there for Far Cry 3.
Yeah,
and they made this whole other game, the single player experience, which is something I'm really looking forward to. Yes, Far Cry 3. They look quite cool, So then things took a little bit of a weird turn in the Sony conference, and they started talking about PlayStation Move. They went, "Yo, we found these things, and it's like I think it's like the Wiimote, but we haven't made a game for it in ages." But they did then throw up and go, "There's 250 games out for this thing, by the way," like as if they're almost angry with you, going, "Yo, everyone, did you know there's 250 games out for Move? We just put them out there. Why are none of you buying any of them?"
Because no one knows what to buy to make Move work.
So they showed a new Move game, which was kind of weird. But that wasn't the weirdest part of it. The weirdest part of it was Wonderbook, and Wonderbook is aimed solely at kids, and Sony have never even given a damn about your kids. You know, Sony don't know you've got kids. Sony are asking you to come out clubbing all the time, not realizing that you've got kids and maybe you can't. Sony are offering you ecstasy. They don't care about your kids, man. Sony wish you didn't have kids. Sony think your kids are in the way.
Yeah, it's because you're spending money
You know?
on your kids and not on Sony.
So it was kind of odd for Sony to go out and go, yo, kids, remember them? They're pretty cool. We've just noticed like someone lent into Sony and went, everyone else is selling games to kids, and kids apparently like games, and parents will
Maybe
buy.
you should try it.
Parents will buy gimmicky shit for kids. Skylanders do really well, you know.
Yeah.
And so they've done this thing, and it's an interactive book. It's like it works in the same way with like iPet and Eye of Judgment, doesn't it? With the vision
it's
cam,
augmented reality. Yeah.
and it kind of just augments from the pages. And you get the kids get a physical book, and they open it up, and they show things to the camera. Stuff jumps out of the book, and they get to use the Move controller as a magic wand and be Harry Potter. And that's quite fitting because the big partner that they announced for it, because the idea is that it's a physical book, but you download like digital experiences into it.
Content. Yeah.
And the first one was called Book of Spells and was done by none other than J.K. Rowling. And that was kind of a big deal. They've got lots of unique, cool content, apparently, cool story content from J.K. Rowling, which is probably the biggest name you're going to be able to get there for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I thought it looked really cool. It looked like the sort of thing that if you slapped it in front of a kid, any kid that I know, they'd be mesmerised by it for hours.
With their old wand doing magic spells, because the system as well looked good because they had the whole movement of doing the spells, and then it was teaching how to do them.
Yeah, and it's simple enough that tech really easily works. You know, it's never going to go wrong. It doesn't spaz out or anything like that. It's it's a camera looking at an icon on a page. It doesn't have to do much. It's simple, easy stuff. Providing the content there is brilliant. I mean, they only showed this one book, didn't they? Book of Spells.
Yeah.
And presumably they would have some sort of marketplace where you'd be able to download more different ones, but they'd only show the one at a time. If they keep making stuff for it, it could be really cool.
It kind of boils down to how well Sony support it. At the end of the day, they're notorious for coming out with an accessory and then kind of dropping it after 6 months. I guess it depends on initial sales.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the issue, isn't it?
supported.
Because Sony have never really cared about the kids before. There's not a big audience of kids
No.
there. It's not the console that very young kids often interact with.
No.
They certainly do with the Wii, more so with the 360, but not PS3. It's really really weird, and that's why it was even stranger that Sony spent the length of time they did on this demoing it at the conference.
It was by far the longest demo.
Man,
Yeah, it did go on for a while.
they were seriously trying to make a statement of, we do, come
We love
sit on my knee,
kids,
it's okay. It
Have a
was
happy
weird.
meal.
It was like them trying to offer a lollipop to a scared child. And they did it for so long. It was weird, and they didn't show anything else.
Yeah.
That was the only kids thing. It wasn't like they made a real big push to go, yo, kids are great, we've got this, and we've got Once Upon a Monster, and we've got yada, yada, yada. They didn't do any of that. They just went, we've got Wonder Book, and we think it's kind of nifty, and that's it. Like as though there was some studio somewhere or some group of people at Sony working on it for ages, and everyone had forgotten about them, and then they came out and went, we made this. And Sony went, yeah, that's all right, but we're not really doing any of that stuff anymore, so we don't know what to do with it. I guess we'll just put it out.
We'll stick it in the middle of E3 conference.
Are there any other Move games in existence?
Really and truly, it would have made more sense to put that and PlayStation All-Stars back to back, because that was the closest other kids game. So it's kind of weird that they weren't back to back.
It was strange. It was yeah. I thought it was cool.
They didn't really explain very well what they were going to do it as, because you both said it's going to be downloadable content for it, and you buy this book. But is it just I'm guessing it's just a plain white book that it displays onto. But will it just be DLC, or will it be on discs?
I reckon. The Book of Spells comes with the actual book as a package, and then from that you'll download additional
Yeah, because it was
content.
weird, because the book they were showing and that you could see was just a plain white. It was just plain white pages that you just turned. So it looked like it was just projected onto the book.
I think there must have been something on the pages in order for it to do the augmented
Recognise
thing.
that, otherwise it would just pick up on anything white
But
in the environment.
they could do it both, couldn't they? They can sell books
Yeah.
if they want. They can sell books, and they can sell discs, and they can sell DLC. They can do it all, and I'm pretty sure they probably will do all of those things. But that's it'd be cool to have a series of books on the shelf that you could pull down each one and do it. I'm sure they've got some sort of idea for it, but yeah, I think it looked alright. It looked pretty cool. It looked like the 3DS augmented stuff.
Yeah.
And that always gives you a little bit of a wow factor at first.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean, the thing that I think I like the most about it is that it disguises your Move remote as a Harry Potter magic wand.
Yeah, well, that stuff works really well when games do that interchange and stuff. So, you know, why not? I'd be interested to know how well things like iPad and stuff like that have done for them, because Sony have always kept one little toe in that area of throwing out the odd iPad game and the odd iToy game here and there. And you look at them and think they can't be doing really well, but maybe they are. Maybe there is a weird group of people that has their PlayStation Eye camera in the front and center of the living room, you know. But it's weird. I don't like having a camera attached to an electronic device in my house
which
that
is attached to the internet constantly.
especially when it's called an eye. You know, that it could be called anything else, but the Vision Cam doesn't worry me, but an eye does. There's something creepy about it. All right, so then one thing that they showed was another Vita title, which was quite a big deal, I suppose, for the Vita, which was Call of Duty.
Yeah, they mentioned Black Ops. Can't remember it.
Don't know. It was some tagline after it, wasn't it? Why even bring it up if we can't remember it, Joe?
I apologise.
You know, we were quite happy calling it Call of Duty.
We can go
now
back
you've made it show that we don't know what we're talking about. 17 minutes past 4 in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it was Call of Duty for Vita. This was, you know, it was a Black Ops title, but it wasn't Black Ops 2. That was the point you were making.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. It was just kind of a spin-off Black Ops. So we have no idea if it's set in Cold War Black Ops time or future Black Ops time.
Or in between.
Or anywhere in between. That's the beauty of the Call of Duty universe, I guess. But this is going to shift some Vitas. You know, it's like if any title's going to shift anything, put Call of Duty on anything, it's going to shift a few. Put it on Joe, you'll sell a few copies of Joe.
I don't know. I don't think it shifted any Wii's. Funnily enough.
No, that's true. But yeah, so that's kind of a big deal. It's also kind of a big deal in that the Vita is the first console that's going to be able to do that because it's got twin sticks. You know, it should play all right, I guess. I wonder how much of a dangerous combination it is. It's like if it's like the fabled World of Warcraft machine. You know, what if you had that in your pocket at all times? People play Call of Duty a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the ability to play it anywhere is pretty cool. But I guess the only issue with it's not going to be cross-play or anything like that. It's just going to be a standalone Call of Duty game. If I've got my Vita out and I'm hooked to a Wi-Fi point in order to do the multiplayer the best, I'm not going to do it over 3G or something like that. I'm probably at home. If I'm at home and I'm a Call of Duty fan, I've probably got a PS3. If I've got a PS3, I've probably got a Call of Duty game, and why not play it on my PS3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've thought it out very well. They're just like, yeah, here's Call of Duty on Vita. You can play it online, when you're out on the move. But it's just like, who's out on the move going to play a multiplayer game? 'Cause it's not like you could sit there on a bus playing a multiplayer game of Call of Duty. You'd be like, oh yeah, fucking just like swearing like a madman on the back of the bus.
That's true. I don't think
with a headset in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's quite a big deal for Sony to get that, especially fairly interesting given how closely Call of Duty's been locked into Microsoft properties.
Yeah.
That this is a sort of claw back from that. So
it might be an actual different story to Black Ops 1, because the guy was saying that it's a partnership with Activision for the game itself. So it sounds like Activision has specifically made this game for the Vita. So it may have a completely different story.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it is Black Ops or Black Ops 2. I think it's a completely different, separate spin-off story. It's just we don't know which time frame that's more linked into. At the moment, we know that Black Ops 1 and 2 take place in two very specific times mainly. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. What else did we have? We had the return of Kratos in God of War Ascension. Not God of War 4.
No.
Interestingly.
Yeah, that's why I questioned as to whether it was a Vita title.
It sounds like a Vita title, doesn't it?
But it's not.
No, it's not. It's 4.
Sony aren't very big on 4 games, putting the number 4 on a title.
I don't think anyone is, are they? I think that's sort of like you get to a certain point where putting the number on becomes weird. It becomes tired. Final Fantasy gets away with it somehow. And Mario Kart thought it was a good idea for this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 4 is probably the cut-off point, because 3 seems to be the end of a trilogy, doesn't it? But it's still very odd because we've grown into that time now where actually subtitles do mean something differently. They normally are a spin-off game or a lesser game or something like that. So you'd think to make the impact, because this is God of War 4,
That they call it God of War 4.
Yeah, or God of War 4 Ascension, but
Because there has been spin-offs in the past.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's the other thing.
Chains
There's been the
of Olympus
PSP stuff.
and the other one.
So this, this looked kind of like more of the same.
Yeah.
It was good-looking God of War slashy fighting in big environments and climbing up things and attaching onto enemies. But it had a really cool rewind time mechanic in it.
Yeah, you and Joe seemed quite impressed by it.
Well, it was cool. We've seen
Yeah.
rewind time
Yeah.
mechanics before, but this one was a little bit different in the fact that it had a piece of the scenery that got knocked down, and in order to get up over the obstacle, he rewound time a little bit, so that stuff was paused and frozen in the air, and he could climb over it. And then when he got over the other side, he was like, you know what? I'm going to rewind time all the bloody way now.
So
And he did.
Yeah.
And carried on. That was cool.
Yeah, but my only thought was he stopped it at such a perfect point to go up. Will it always?
I reckon it's 90-degree turns.
Yeah, so it's like it'll go to a point and stop,
Yeah.
and he can go past that.
Right. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I could see it being completely fluid.
If it's completely fluid, though, you may not go far enough and get stuck.
But
So
you
you'll have
can
to do
move
it
it.
slightly.
Presumably you can move it back and forth. We didn't see him go wiggle it. Can I put the world on like pause, like old school VHS pause, where it sort of vibrates back and forth?
Stuck between two frames.
Because he clearly has other time abilities in it. There was a
He
bit where
uses
he slows down two
bullet
bodies in
storm
the air.
bounce.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I guess, its new hook
Yeah.
for the game. It looked alright. It just looked like more God of War. They're really pretty games. They're massively, excessively violent.
I mean, the combat's tired now, though, isn't it? It's kind of Devil May Cry.
It is, yeah, but it's, that's cool. It's quite deep. There's a lot of different moves and combos that you've got, in those sort of things. And the quick time events are cool, which break up sort of your big battles.
Oh, yeah, you've got battles.
I just think they're just awesomely cinematic. I love the way the camera, sometimes the way the camera is, because it's all fixed camera stuff in God of War. That's kind of where it's quite different. But when it suddenly comes off its rails and follows him as he jumps down off a cliff edge or something, it looks wicked, and it's really seamless, which is nice. But it's just so aggressive, man. There's a bit in that game
where
with the elephant man thing.
the elephant head.
Yeah, and he spends like 20 minutes just punching him in the face with a blade, and then just rips his skull open, and it's like, really?
Ganesh's
It's
brain.
like he's dead.
Excellent.
He's been dead for 17 punches.
It is just savage. He's got like a knife in his neck and just like stabbing it into his skull until he can pull it down. It just like splits open, and he's already like stuck 2 chains through this thing, and it is just. I've never played God of War, and I just didn't realise how excessively violent the game was itself.
I think this one seems to be more excessively violent than previous.
Oh,
I say
I don't
that,
know.
but the first boss on number 3, you gouge his eyes out, don't you?
Yeah. And there's loads of stuff like that. It's part of its charm in a way, isn't it? Kratos is an angry man. I think he's killed most members of his family anyway, like himself. He's not a good chap. But there's a lot of blood in those games, and there's a lot of just, hey, would you mind me removing that from you right now?
I was going to say, from what they were showing in that demo, there was a lot of him ripping the heads off of horned creatures.
Yeah, there was.
Par for the course, I think, for GOW.
I mean, quickly coming back to the QTE in it, the QTE looked quite slick that it's stuck to the edges of the screen.
Yeah, it's always been a nice way of. In fact, they were even nicer buttons this time than they were in previous games, so they stood out even more in previous games. They were quite subdued. But it's nice. They're on the edges, aren't they? And corresponding to where they are on the thing. So it almost becomes Twitch-like. You don't have to look at them at all, because if it's on the left side of the screen, it's the square button, and it's the circle button if it's on the right hand side of the screen. Yeah. So yeah, it's a nice way of doing it. Because it's weird. I love QTEs. People hate them, but I really like doing them. But the pain in the arse is them covering the screen. I don't want to look at buttons while I'm doing it. I want to look at the action, which is a tough balance to get while still making them challenging.
Again, coming back to Beyond Studio, the guys that did that, you told me ages ago when I initially started talking about Fahrenheit that when you initially saw it, the QTE stuff was really subtle. It was just like at the bottom right hand side of the screen.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, bottom corner. And then when the game came out, it was
it
bang in the middle.
Everything.
Yeah.
It covered all of the action.
It's ghastly.
But the worst thing is, even in replay, when you can go back and watch those cinematics later, and you're not actually doing it, the buttons are still covering the screen. It's like what's the fucking point in that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit shocking.
Need to work on QTs, people.
Yeah. All right, then. So after that, then Sony went into their big title, I guess. The next one from Naughty Dog, the Uncharted guys, and that was The Last of Us. And the second Sony title on display today that seemed to involve an Ellen Page of some sort.
Yeah, she doesn't look as much like Ellen Page as she did in the first trailer.
Yeah, she doesn't look as much like Ellen Page as Ellen Page.
Yeah.
but it's got a little girl like Ellen Page in it. And The Last of Us is an interesting one. It's Naughty Dog, so it really has an Uncharted feel to it.
Yeah, graphically it kind of looked like it was the same engine, maybe.
Yeah, it probably is. And no bad thing for it. It's a gorgeous looking game.
Slick.
But the main character looks, kind of like a dishevelled older Nathan Drake, and the environment's kind of look the same. But this is a weird sort of survival, almost it's not survival horror, but survival drama game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks a lot like I Am Alive.
Like I Am Alive should have been.
Yeah, if they've finished development and not made it into an arcade game.
Yeah, so it's that sort of vibe, isn't it? Of you're a survivor, and it's just trying to lone survival, I guess, against other sort of enemies that are similar to yourself. They're just sort of people,
Yeah.
and scavenging sort of Book of Eli almost vibe to it without you being a badass. And The Last of Us is this guy and this girl that are thrown together. You don't know what their relationship is, whether they're
Whether they're just two survivors bumped into each other, a father and daughter. Or
but
whatever.
she's always there with you, and it's clear that Naughty Dog are playing on some of their other strengths of the characters' relationships with each other and the way they talk to each other throughout gameplay, which was kind of nicely done and well implemented in the Uncharted series, and looks like it's really played on here. It looks like they'll always be bantering back and forth. But it's interesting having her around all the time, because that means, I fear that means some poor gameplay elements where I'm protecting her.
Yeah.
Although the demo did show that she can hold her own a little bit.
Yeah. But in the demo as well, it looked like she was hanging back. So it was like when he came out of the room into the main area where he was in the fight, she seemed to hang back in the room, so she was never really involved with it.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. The AI was fairly smart in that case, and that does make sense that she wouldn't go running into things. And he does say as well, stay here, get back, and whatever. But there's a bit sort of early on where they're hiding in a room from a bunch of sort of vigilante dudes that are armed. And she, as it all kicks off, you see her pick up a brick from the ground as she's sort of freaking out. And then later on in the level, she clobbers a guy with it to try and sort of save the day.
Yeah, she kind of distracts the guy once he realises that you're out of ammo.
Yeah.
And then your guy rushes in and smashes his face into a table.
Yeah, so that was the next thing I was going to say, is this game is vicious. It's considering the Uncharted series, which has always been very family friendly in respect to the way killing's handled.
Kind of A-team explosions.
Yeah, exactly. And Nathan Drake makes a point of how he doesn't want to kill people all the time and all this stuff. This was nasty. You've got a guy that's just having his head caved in. In fact, a really good point with the audience was that guy in particular that after you've run out of your shots and slams him into a desk, he old Nathan Drake grabs him by the head and smashes him into this desk, and you see his head come apart and he's dead. And the audience watching the show just clapped. It was the only time that they just properly went, "Ray!" And it was like, I don't know. I didn't know what to make of that, to be honest. Really weird thing to clap. But all of the melee combat in the game was vicious.
Yeah, it was proper brutal.
Because he goes in through the window, doesn't he? And he choke holds the first guy and just kind of chokes him out. But it's not like he puts him to sleep. He chokes him to death.
Yeah, and it takes ages.
Yeah.
It's just really rams home that survival vibe.
Yeah.
Like these people, they're just doing anything they can to survive. It's him or me, so it's gonna be him.
Yeah.
It looks very adult.
Yeah, because later on the demo, there's the other bit when he goes into another room, and he gets into a fist fight with those guys, and it's proper gritty, punches, slugging it out. And then there's the guy with the shotgun that he takes, and then blows his head off just before the demo ends. But it's proper brutal. He's his head proper disappears at that point.
It's not afraid to show you any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure how that game's going to play out gameplay-wise, because it looks really Uncharted, but we didn't see loads and loads of climbing around or loads of gunplay, two things that you do get a lot of in the Uncharted games. And it looks like it's going to be quite quiet for a lot of it.
Yeah.
You're going to spend a lot of time just kind of traversing the environment with this girl and them just chatting. So they did that weird thing at the beginning of showing this game where they turned off all the lights for way too long and no one knew what was going on, and you just hear birds cheeping in the middle of the conference room. And it was like, I don't know what...
And the camera wasn't facing the screen, it was facing the audience.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal was there.
I think it was a fuck up. I think it's a technical.
Oh, you
error.
think they were supposed to be showing a screen?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Because it seemed to have started by the time it got back
I
to the
presumed it
screen.
was just the room went dark and there was just sound and they weren't showing anything.
Maybe.
Maybe they just forgot to switch camera, so there was a camera pointed at the screen. They just forgot to switch back.
I think you guys seem to think that everyone that works in every industry can't do anything.
Every professional is an amateur waiting to be exposed.
Okay.
What I'm curious about in The Last of Us, because in the first trailer they showed, was it had the people with like the plant growths on their head and things like this.
Yeah, because it's like a zombie survival
Yeah.
horror game, isn't it? And that was the kind of
Gist.
and the Easter egg that was in Uncharted 3, which showed it as well. Was it? Yeah, it's something to do with a fungus and a virus or something.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what it's all about.
It was something to do with a fungus and a virus or something.
And zombie-esque people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Simple. It's Resident Evil. No, yeah.
Without explosions.
It's one to watch. Naughty Dog knock them out of the park every single time. So, there's no reason to think this is going to be anything other than that. I find that these Sony games really look similar. The Uncharted ones, and even God of War put into the same category. They have a level of polish that kind of looks all like a Sony game.
Yeah,
I don't know what it
definitely.
is.
I definitely agree. It's like a Sony varnish. They finish them all in.
Yeah. It's weird, think how different a Sony conference feels to a Microsoft conference. I always notice it every year, and I always think that Microsoft conferences always feel really light, and there's lots of white and lots of light colours everywhere, and Sony's always seem really dark and with reds and dark, deep blues and stuff. But that was a massive conference, and they put a lot of effort into show.
Yeah.
With this, like say, your montage that you loved at the beginning, Joe, and 3D projections on the walls and stuff, and the set was pretty big. Microsoft never do that; they just kind of have it's an Xbox on a plinth and a white wall. You got old Kaz Hirai up from the audience and was like, "Yep, this dude's here. He used to be on the stage. He's awesome." I so wanted him to just scream Ridge Racer.
Sony one definitely feel more formal. Microsoft feel a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, it's weird, and yet there's that point before Jack Tretton comes out on stage where someone goes, "Jack, unbutton your shirt." It'll put everyone at ease, and that I hate it. I don't like that. There's something sort of smarmy about it. Whereas Don Matrick, when he comes out of Microsoft, always looks a bit scruffy, like he's come from the office but fallen over on the way. And Jack Tretton's just got a smooth sort of, "I've just come from the golf course. I'll unbutton my shirt. I've probably got a medallion on." No women in that performance.
There was two.
Was there?
Yeah, there was one for the PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. She was playing it, and then there was the one for the Far Cry 4 co-op.
What is Fat Princess doing in PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale? Fat Princess wasn't a big enough game to get Fat Princess in that game, was it?
I think it's kind of like a cult classic.
It's a good game. She strikes me as scraping the barrel a little bit. Certainly for the initial announcements, these are cool games. I'd put some bigger ones in there.
I imagine we're going to see some Ubisoft characters in there. I'm betting on
Ezio.
Ezio.
Yeah, Ezio. I bet his Snake's in there. Kevin Butler is rumoured.
I think they should have the lock-on man from Far Cry 3.
It's
okay.
If they don't have Crash Bandicoot, then something's gone
Yeah,
horribly wrong.
yeah.
It's like you still are a Sony mascot no matter where you go.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that was kind of strange. So overall, the Sony conference I thought was pretty good, but I wanted it to be better. There was no mention, interestingly, of the rumor of the Gaikai deal or OnLive deal that's been circulating of them having backwards compatibility through this streaming service. So I'm guessing from that, and then if there is any weight to that rumor that maybe that deal is still going on, and maybe it's a PlayStation 4 thing. Bear in mind we are now, people are suspecting that PlayStation 4 is going to be around us, sort of holiday next year. So that makes sense for that to be a possibility. But maybe it's also something they could roll out at any time.
They also went on about PlayStation Suite, which is no longer called PlayStation Suite. It's called PlayStation Mobile.
Not to be confused with PlayStation Portable.
Which no longer exists.
That's also true.
Because it's PlayStation Vita.
Yeah. So they're expanding Suite, aren't they? They've kind of gone. We've made deals with other mobile providers. They're still going all Android. They keep going on Android. We love Android. Android's brilliant. Open source.
Well,
man.
Sony Ericsson's use Android, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I just find it interesting that there's no Apple on this. It seems
They can't
like
seem to break a deal with them.
Yeah, it seems like you've got it.
And Microsoft have.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the genius of the smart glass thing is that it needs to run on iPads and iPhones because there's so many of them. Yeah. So it's strange that Sony haven't been able to work that out in some way. But they're rolling out PlayStation Suite then, which was obviously it's previously been seen on like the Xperia mobile phone, you know, the PlayStation phone that came out, looked like a bit like a PSP Go, and it's cool. It's just an app store for PS1 games. Yeah. Basically, and minis and various other things like that. One thing that was always interesting about it that I didn't like was the price. The price hasn't been able to compete with things like on the App Store, which have been much cheaper. And we're used to buying games in that space for a much cheaper price than the games that you would pay for a PS1 game or something on PSN.
Because I think the minis on PlayStation 3 are relatively cheap.
Yeah, they can
£3
really cheap. Yeah, PS1 games you're still talking about £5.99.
Yeah, they're like £6 kind of minimum, aren't they?
And that seems to be a lot to play on a phone.
Yeah.
But they're rolling out to a lot more phone devices because obviously that's the problem with Android stuff as well, which again makes it a bit more of a pain in the ass for this stuff is depending on what version of Android you're using, what phone you're using, it varies on how good your experience is going to be or whether you can use it at all.
Yeah.
But they were saying more phones and actually that they'd struck up a deal with HTC for their latest phones.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good because HTC, they're pretty much the daddies in Android phones, and that's a good thing to have. They got to do something. It seems weird. It seems to be in direct competition to me. That seems in direct competition with the Vita.
Vita, certainly.
You know, they are, and that's why it's funny thinking PlayStation Portable and PlayStation Mobile because well, aren't you saying the same fucking thing?
They're trying to sell you two things on two different separate spaces and platforms, but it is kind of treading on its own toes at the same time with Vita.
It seems like PlayStation Suite should be more connected with like the PlayStation Network, so if you buy it on one it should work with the other.
Yeah.
They just never want to do that though, do they? They want to, if you buy on one they want to sell it onto another one.
Yeah.
PlayStation Suite, I wonder how long that'll be around for.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see it disappear relatively soon.
And so that was about it for sort of Sony's conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, it was I think it was a shorter one than they normally do. I think they can sometimes go into the 2-hour mark, and that was only about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to bring up then while we're here, because obviously E3 is going along now, and there's a lot of games being announced, and we'll kind of grab them as we can, and maybe we'll do an extra show, or we'll certainly have a lot to talk about next week as well. But we've seen other games that have been announced that weren't in any of the conferences. Another one from Ubisoft that really sort of caught our eye because it's just sort of exploded all over Twitter recently has been Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
This looked really cool. I think it's worth talking about now. Blade Runner meets Grand Theft Auto type thing.
I think it's a fair assessment. It's obviously it's near future stuff, but it's not so distant. It looked very grounded in current visual.
Yeah, and the environments were, there were taxis like you'd expect. It looked like a normal city environment and stuff.
It wasn't kind of like holographic road signs and stuff,
no.
but
it was high tech hacking.
Yeah,
but it was high tech hacking as in future hacking. But wasn't really high tech. It was kind of like
off your smartphone.
Yeah, exactly. It was the sort of hacking that you'd imagine kids on rollerblades and skateboards with punk hairstyles to do.
Yeah.
But
it was cyberpunk without the punk.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Had a dude that was doing his best Neo impression, wandering around in his long jacket in the rain. I love the way the dude walked around actually with his hands in his pockets, just kind of real casual.
And the physics of the coat itself, the way it kind of swung off the body.
The atmosphere was wicked.
It did look very slick as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what people mean when people are making a Blade Runner comparison. They're thinking walking down a street in the rain with your hands in your pockets. Yeah. It's that kind of atmosphere. So this game was cool. It was sandboxy, like a GTA type thing. You could drive cars around the city and stuff and go into buildings. But it had this hacking vibe where you were interacting with electronics and the environment around you to cause disturbances. He was a hitman or something, am I right?
It doesn't really explain. He was after that guy to deliver a message, but it doesn't explain what it was for or why he was doing it.
It seemed like they were after him and he was drawing them out to take out.
Yeah, so to set it up, because this makes no sense unless you see the trailer, is that the guy goes towards an art gallery and infiltrates an art gallery and talks to an informant friend there about how he's after some person, the owner of the gallery. And then the other guy, basically it's like two blokes talk very vaguely to each other before someone does something bad. And the other guy insinuates they're after him and that he's drawn them out and stuff. And then a gunfight ensues, yeah? But before that, he's doing these cool infiltration stuff. Like you say, he's got his smartphone for his hacking, and he walks into the gallery and he kind of just hovers around people, and you can listen to their conversations. But it's also bringing up information about each person it points on with this sort of cool spiderweb HUD type thing. And it had really weird information for each one. It was like, is diabetic or is a homosexual.
Been declined for a loan recently.
Declined for a loan, yeah. Is a foster parent, has HIV. And it was just sort of like weird. Are you expected to go into sort of minute detail, like likes Kinder eggs, fancies fat chicks. It was a bit weird, and I thought that was a bit strange. But his device that he could do, he did really cool stuff. So he there was one bit where he used it and it kind of let out a little EMP to sort of screw everyone's phones.
Yeah.
And everyone, the characters in
and
NPC
that's where he pulls the
right.
bouncer away from the front door as he's trying to get someone on his phone, and he just kind of slips past.
But other cool stuff it did though is a bit where he causes a wicked traffic accident.
Yeah, by messing with traffic lights.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? It's not the traffic lights. He kills the car that is like the guy is after is in the car. He kills it because all the lights go off in that car, but no others, and it just rolls out into the street and causes the accident.
Oh, okay. But it's cool, and then from that moment it all kicks off into gunfight, then doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's like bullet time and stuff in it as well.
Yeah, it's got proper slow mo. There's a bit moments where he like jumps over bonnets of the car while shooting and stuff, and all of that looked really slick. I mean, one thing I must say about the game anyway is it was great looking.
Yeah.
It was really nice. It was not clear from the demo footage as to what platform it was running on.
There was
Ubisoft,
no button overlays.
No, they've done that same thing they did with Far Cry last year, where they just removed all button things, and the map overlay in the corner you can see has been added afterwards. So it's difficult to say what it was from, but yeah, it really did look really slick. And so yeah, this little gunfight, a petrol station explodes, and it's all really nice. There's a bit where he pulls a guy out of a car and tells him to get down on time, almost pulls him out of the gunfight to safety.
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of weird, given that he caused the accident in the first
and
place.
Killed X amount of people in the crash.
And it's when he pulls him out, this guy's wife or girlfriend is dead in the seat next to him.
True,
So he like pulls him out. It's like, yeah, don't worry about her. Just go over there somewhere.
Sorry about that, by the way. Maybe does this make up for it? Yeah, and then he the gunfight ensues. He does a cool bit of slow mo. He gets to his mark, tells him he's going to use him to send a message, and shoots him in the face.
Yeah,
it had a cool sort of noirish vibe to it, and it was all sort of collars up and cigarettes,
Anti-heroes. It doesn't look like anyone's a goodie in it.
No. And then he gets into a car the same way you would in a GTA, speeds off as he's being chased, raises the bridge that he's going over, and jumps to safety.
It looks very slick.
I need to see it more in actual action, because a lot of that looked like it didn't. I mean, obviously it wasn't a scripted sequence as whole, but they looked like there were several beats that they were trying to hit in specific points, and I wonder how much that goes over into gameplay if you're doing that over and over again, as you would be in a sort of sandbox environment like that.
Yeah.
But it was certainly a neat idea. It reminded me a little bit of that awesome Prey demo from last year. Obviously Prey 2, which has been in a lot of trouble, and no one knows how that's going to turn out now, or even who's making it exactly. But it had that sort of vibe to it, and again, it's that sort of cyberpunky Blade Runner vibe, isn't it? Really cool. I thought that was just a really novel thing. It's probably one of the standout games I've seen so far from E3.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the reason it blew up so much as well is because it just came out of nowhere. Ubisoft were just like, oh yeah, and we've got this.
That's true, yeah. No one's heard anything of it.
Yeah, and then there's this awesome looking game just out of nowhere.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's multi-platform, we know that, and that's kind of it. No one really knows a great deal more about it. If you haven't seen it, seriously recommend you go and check it out. Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about E3, is that you do get the games coming out of left field that no one's heard of, and that's where the excitement comes from.
All right, okay. Well, then I think that's probably going to sum up for this one. It is 10 to 5 in the morning, and Joe is cranky. So we're going to get some well-earned rest, and then we'll be back with you tomorrow to talk about the Nintendo conference.
Later today.
Well, later today, talk to you about the Nintendo conference, the re-showing, as it were, the correction of mistakes for the Nintendo Wii U, and anything else that we see in between. Obviously, there's a lot of announcements going on. So that's cool. Thanks for listening. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on thingsweplay@gmail.com or tweet us at thingsweplay. We're going to go collapse now, or I'm going to go edit this and then collapse now, and we'll catch you in just a matter of hours. So, yeah, see you soon.
See you in a bit.
Bye.